I was trying to push her to be like, no, you can be my full-time person. Be my full-time person. Be my full-time person. And she didn't want it. So eventually, what's funny, like she sat me down and she said, Brandy, you know how you always say the team that got you here may not be the team that gets you there? She said, that's me. Welcome to CEO Conversations, the private practice podcast. I'm your host, Brandy Mabra. It's time to show up as a confident leader to create a practice and life you love. Hello. Welcome back to another episode of CEO Conversations, the private practice podcast. It is Brandy Mabra. And today we are talking about, in short, the team that got you here may not be the team that gets you there. I say it often. My clients know that this is a saying. I need to trademark this thing because a lot of times people will say like, oh, what got you here may not get you there. I always say the team that got you here may not be the team that gets you there. And the reason why is because oftentimes as the practice continues to grow, not everybody's meant to come with you. And that's a hard pill to swallow. I think it's even more challenging for us because of healthcare. We have businesses that are meant to help people, and even the business that I have now, it's in perfect alignment, even with my healthcare background and all the work because it's service-based, right? And so when you are coming from a place of service and more specifically from a healthcare perspective, you want to make sure people are well, making sure that they're good, making sure that they have everything that they need, making sure that they feel cared for. All of that leaks into the business. So when you have somebody on the team that cannot grow with the team or is struggling as the practice continues to grow or the business continues to grow, that's hard. It is so hard. So I want to definitely acknowledge this conversation that we're getting ready to have together, and just some of the challenges that definitely can come up, that do come up. And I'll start off with a story. My first team member. So when I first started my consulting business, then I knew I needed to hire. I was not, especially with my management leadership background, again, 100 plus team members, multiple locations, being in C-suites, all the things, I was used to being able to delegate. So when I first started my business, I was like, whoa, wait a minute, there's a lot of hats that I'm starting to wear. This is hard, right? So my first person was with me for 4 years. Oh, I loved her. I mean, amazing. And I'm still thankful for her. And it started to become very clear. So as my business a couple years in started to grow, we started to get more busy. She was taking on more things. At one point in time, I have an amazing podcast manager who's on the other side of the camera right now. It helps me. But my first team member, she was actually my podcast manager. She was my producer. She was my social media manager. She was my executive assistant. She was my director of operations. She was my customer service person. She was, everything in this one person. And she did it. What's crazy is she did it in less than like 20 hours or something. It was something wild because she was just able to she's a fast mover, right? So the original goal when I first hired her, for full disclosure, was that she was going to eventually be like my first full-time employee. And the further we got into it, around year 2, you could tell that there started to become a misalignment with what I wanted, what the business needed, what she wanted, what she thought that she could give. And I was struggling with that. 2 things happened. I was trying to push her to be like, no, you can be my full-time person. Be my full-time person. Be my full-time person. And she didn't want it. So eventually, what's funny is that she sat me down and she said, Brandy, you know how you always say the team that got you here may not be the team that gets you there? She said, that's me. And that's how she put in her notice. So again, 4 years after she left, and she said it, and I think it's hard. So I'm telling you this story because I want you to understand. I get it. I can definitely relate to stories. I also relate to it from even just my business experience and leadership experience. But there's something about those early employees. And I think when you own your own business, it's just different. Like you're in the trenches. There's emotion. And there were so many tears, just trying to figure things out as an entrepreneur. And so when she did that, when she left, it was sad. But what I will tell you on the other side of it, because my team is much bigger now, and I have Kristen, on the other side of it, I wouldn't change anything about it, because the where my business is at now versus where it was then, she knew she had to get out of the way. So a lot of times when you have those first team members, they need to get out of the way, or they need to elevate with the business. And so there's two things that I always say when you're trying to navigate and grow a business. And there's episodes on this. Like there's one really great episode where is your team an asset or a liability? And so with that particular episode, we'll put it in the show notes. But like with that particular episode, I'm going through saying either the practice will outgrow the team member in the position, or the team member in the position will outgrow the position that they're in, which means that either you need to promote the team member, right? Which is what I was trying to do with the person who was with me for 4 years. I was trying to promote them. She didn't want it. Or the business is going to outgrow a team member and they just can't grow with it, right? So that means like the skill set isn't matching, the strengths aren't matching, maybe the culture fit is out of alignment, which is also what happened with my team member. The culture that I was creating, she wasn't in alignment with it, right? So there's nothing right or wrong about it, but there is an emotional thing, like emotional feelings that go with all of these decisions. But more times than not, the team that you have right now, when you think about your next stage of business growth, many of them will not be in it, right? And so your job as the CEO is to get very clear on what is the direction, making it. And what I did do from a leadership perspective, which is why my team member was able to make the decision that she was able to make, is I was being very clear about what the expectations were and what I needed. And she was able to conclude, I'm not able to give you that, nor do I want to, which is fine. Again, I'm better off for it. You will be better off for it, but it's still hard. And I think about just when I've let go of other team members, or other team members have put in their notice, or even with the team member that I had, she's way better for it, And so like she's happier. She's more in alignment with what she wants for her life. She's moved states. I mean, just all kinds of amazing things have happened. So I'm in a much better place. She's in a great place. And so I believe that God has a purpose for everybody. And that includes the team members that are on your team. And sometimes, again, us being heart-centered, being where we feel like we know what's best for the people, when sometimes the people, they have to be their own advocate and they have to do what's best for them, right? And so a lot of times too is following the calling that's on their life. And sometimes when you're trying to block that because you feel like you need that person, or you're trying to block that because you feel like you're saving, because that's what I see too. Let me save this person. This person needs this paycheck. They probably do need the paycheck, but they're miserable inside of your business. And how many times, like I know for people I was trying to write up or have difficult conversations, and you're trying to like will them to do better. It was frustrating and it's annoying. And who wants to go to work like that? Like I know as a leader, you get tired of trying to get people to do things. The team member eventually gets tired of trying to do things too. So I was at a TD Jakes leadership conference. And one of the best things that I heard was that God has a purpose for all of your team members. And it's true. It is true. So if that gives you permission, if I had to guess, more times than not, somebody's listening to this who probably has some type of team member on their team that is either, again, outgrowing the position that they're in, or the practice is outgrowing that team member. And there's some type of conversation that needs to be had. So I'm going to give you permission. I hope I'm giving you permission to go ahead and come to that realization to have the conversation. So let's talk through okay, so there's the two things that can happen with a team member. Like, what do you do on both sides? So let's say that there's the team member who is outgrowing the position. Then hopefully you've had conversations. If not, then you need to go back, what I call growth conversations. So growth conversations is where you're getting a good understanding of what do they want for their career? Where do they see themselves moving? Sometimes they do want to own their own practice. Sometimes they don't want to own their own practice. Sometimes they want to be the VP of a company. Sometimes they want to be your COO, or even maybe a future CEO, right? So part of this is you getting very clear on what do they want for their career, and then what is that next step for them, right? So if they're outgrowing the position that they're in, where's the opportunity? So we talked last week about org charts. This is where org chart's powerful, because if you have your org chart, the organization of your company mapped out, you can say, this would be the next step for you when it comes to your career. This is what you can do. Or you're thinking, what are some other ways that this great team member can actually contribute to the practice? So when we think about, again, the entrepreneur type of team member, then this is where you're digging into, okay, is there maybe a special project that they can work on? Is there something that we can do in order to help with their professional growth? Is there a conference that maybe you want them to attend? Is there a new skill set that you would be willing to invest to help them learn, right? Or is there a promotion that you could give them, a new title that you can give them with some additional responsibility, and maybe even a pay raise, in order to help you to move the practice forward, right? So you're getting very clear on, again, alignment for what that team member wants and what you can do with them inside of the practice. So those are great conversations. Those are really fun because they feel very fruitful. They're exciting. They're exciting for the team member. They're exciting for you. Usually it's a win-win situation for everybody. So that's fun. The flip side to it is where the practice is actually outgrowing that team member. And what do you do? And those are hard conversations because usually, again, there's some type of attachment. They've been with you maybe a while. Maybe they're like the original crew, type of team member. And you're like, man, you don't look as shiny and beautiful as what you used to, like they become almost like the old shoe or the old ball and chain. And you're just like looking like, man, I really want to get to this next spot. And I don't see you in that vision. I don't see you being part of this. So in those instances, you have one or two options. Either you can have a very honest conversation and fire them, right? Or you can have very honest conversations where eventually they get the point and they leave. Your job, your only job as the CEO is to have the honest conversation for them to know exactly where they stand inside of the practice. So you can say that you've been with me for a really long time, right? This is where when you have job descriptions, when you have KPIs or key performance indicators, where you have policy and procedures, company handbook, contracts, employee agreements, this is where those conversations become easier because you have something to hold them accountable to. So when we think about Freedom Formula, the culture of accountability, when you have that culture of accountability, then you're holding them accountable to what is required in that position. You're holding them accountable to how they need to show up inside the practice. And that's the standard, right? And so the hard part when you have the original crew and you're bringing in new team members, that original crew sometimes can ruin it for the new team members. So this is where you'll find like, man, we keep hiring these really great team members and they don't want to stay. Or there's like this conflict of like the old culture versus the new culture, right? And so from my experience, I have turned over a lot of teams, and it's usually best when you can have new blood, new foundation. People don't know the old, they don't know what it used to be like. They don't know the old leader you used to be. They don't know where maybe you weren't so vocal or you weren't so clear, where you were maybe just trying to figure it out. So it makes it easy for when you have new people where this is the standard, this is the norm. They don't know any different. So again, like your only job is just to have the conversation and to be very clear about what the expectation is. And again, that team member will either come to the conclusion, this is not the place for me, or they are going to come to the conclusion of, oh, I'm being terminated. It's hard. I mean, I'm not going to say it's easy. It's hard. It's super hard. And there will probably be tears. I've cried after multiple firings. I cried when my team member of 4 years left. Cried like a baby. I went through my stages of grief over losing her. And, that's normal. That is normal. And I would love to say that after you fire people or you let people go or you have these conversations, it gets easier. No, I've had tons and tons and tons. And they've gotten easier, but there's still, again, we're heart-centered. We care. We want people to do well. And so, again, God has a purpose for everybody, including your team. So when you think about your practice, And, I always say a CEO is driving a bus. But when you think about your practice, do you have the people in the right seat? Are they in the right places? When you think about your org chart, is it situated the way that it needs to be? Yes or no? Clear answer. Yes or no? If the answer is no, then you need to dig in a little bit. If the answer is yes, amazing, fantastic. There's probably a next level. So who's next, right? So if you are sitting there like, man, I really need help. I really need help getting to that next stage of business growth, or I really need help trying to navigate some of these conversations or trying to refine things that are happening inside my practice, then I would love for you to go ahead and apply for Private Practice CEO. So inside of the show notes or in the description box on YouTube, you will be able to apply. Super easy. When you apply, you'll be able to set up a call. If it's not a good fit, we'll be completely honest with you. And then we will be able to decide what's the next step for you. So you'll get what's called the Own Your CEO Status call from that, and we'll make sure that you have any kind of nuggets. And when I keep saying we, I mean me. So it's a call with me, and we'll be able to talk about whether or not it's a good fit for you. So go ahead and apply today for Private Practice CEO. So I guess that's it for today. Again, I'm empowering you to have those conversations, or to say thank you to the team, or to have, again, no thank you to the team. And I'll see you guys next time. All right. Bye. Thanks for listening today. I hope you enjoyed the episode and it empowers you as the CEO of your practice. If you enjoyed the podcast, please make sure you subscribe, share the message, and leave a review. If you want more information and support in growing and scaling your practice, click the link in the show notes to take advantage of our free resources or apply to work with me directly. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.